Good evening and welcome to the Daily Drum for this Friday, October 31st, 2025. It is Halloween, a time that typically is focused on kids trick-or-treating and everyone having a little bit of scary fun. But for many, it's a real frightening time for families in the area. It is hard to imagine choosing between paying bills or putting food on the table, but that is the reality for so many people, millions of people, because of the ongoing government shutdown. SNAP benefits, lifelines for 1 in 8 Americans are being paused tomorrow. Here in the DMV, families are worried, and food banks and nonprofits are racing to fill the gap. So tonight, we'll hear from the United Way of the National Capital Area and DC Hunger Solutions about the growing need, the human toll, and communities who are many members of the communities who are stepping up when help is most needed. Plus, in just a little bit, we'll have a local nonprofit answering the call for help. We'll talk about all of that. So let me introduce our guests for this conversation that really is about real people needing food on the tables. Tonight, LaMonika Jones is the director of DC Hunger Solutions. And joining me also here this evening is Dr. Nicole Cooper, Senior Vice President of External Affairs for United Way of the National Capital Region. And in just a little bit, we're hoping to be joined by Brian Mulholland, the chair of the John Mulholland Family Foundation, which provides food assistance to those in need. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. LaMonika, let me start with you first. DC Hunger Solutions, you're the director of DC and Maryland Hunger Solutions. Let's talk about what SNAP really means, what the benefits of SNAP are, and the impact as they are being paused, and what this all means to families who will be impacted. Put a face on all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we know that SNAP is our first line of defense against hunger. SNAP is a lifeline for over 140,000 district residents. That includes almost 50,000 children. And in Maryland, that's over 680,000 families, as well as just about 270,000 children. SNAP is again a lifeline, and it is what many families are relying on. It's what many families are depending on. And there's various different dynamics in play that require a household to utilize those benefits. And so with this looming threat of benefits not being available for households, it's deeply concerning. We're grateful for Mayor Muriel Bowser for stepping up and for allocating district funds for that, and as well as for Governor Moore for allocating $10 million to food banks and emergency food providers so that we can continue to respond accordingly. But we know that SNAP is that lifeline that families are depending on, as well as it supports our retailers. So it's an entire food system support system. For every $1 in SNAP benefit that is spent in our retailers across DC and Maryland, we're looking at $1.50 that is put back into our economy. So in DC, that's about $216 million. And in Maryland, that's $1.4 billion that's poured back into our local economy. So the looming threat of not having the guarantee of these benefits, even though we know that DC will have those benefits, it's definitely scary.
Yeah, it is. Okay, Dr. Nicole Cooper with the United Way of the National Capital Region. I want to bring you in on this. And LaMonika, please follow up as well, because you guys are on the front lines of all of this. We often hear about SNAP in policy terms, but for real families, when we talk about losing these benefits day to day, what's the worst case scenario? What's the reality of all of this?
Yes, thank you for that question. I would say this, that we know what this these cutbacks and decisions, these are policy decisions, will mean in just a few hours on the brink of November 1st, with the USDA sharing with states and local agencies and nonprofits that these critical benefits that were just described by my colleague here may not come through, right? That means that people will go hungry. They will make impossible decisions around how best to feed themselves and their families, which will mean that there will not be enough gas in the tank, enough money in the budget to cover other essentials. I'm thinking quite a bit now about the change in weather that we're experiencing here in the DC region, how it's colder, how we now need to turn on the heat perhaps to heat our homes, to remain safely housed, and how many families tomorrow, November 1st, won't be able, will make a tough decision to choose to go cold because they know that they now need to go out of pocket to pay for food in an unexpected fashion when just a few days ago they were expecting to receive their monthly installation of SNAP benefits, of food stamps that they continue to rely on. And so here at the United Way of the National Capital Area, the nexus, if you will, for the populations that we think about every night and every morning when we come to work are ALICE, those asset limited, income constrained families. Those are people who are working poor, who have been on the brink of financial crisis for a long time, who are barely making ends meet despite being employed. We just know that our cost of living in this region is too high. And they've been making impossible decisions and choices for a long time. And actually, that population itself doesn't qualify for SNAP because they're not below the federal poverty line, they're just above it. And yet we know that they essentially operate below the level of income that's necessary to truly purchase everything needed with ease, including food and other essentials for everyday families.
Yeah. And LaMonika Jones with DC Hunger Solutions, before we go on with the conversation, explain what the organization does.
Sure. So DC Hunger Solutions, we are one of 3 initiatives of the Food Research and Action Center. And so we were founded in 2002 as a direct response to hunger here in the district. And so we do our work in very distinct ways. Number one is maximizing participation in our federal nutrition programs. So we work very closely with our households and our families on SNAP eligibility, making sure that they understand the SNAP application process. We also work really closely with our schools and our families participating in school breakfast, school lunch, after school meals, and then as well as who I call our littlest eaters with WIC, as well as the Child and Adult Care Food Program. And then in the summer with the DC Youth Meals Program, which is federally known as the Summer Food Service Program. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, we do extensive policy work. We work really closely with DC Council, as well as our other government agencies on benefit adequacy, and benefit access. So that ensures that, we have policies that are serving as permanent solutions to upending hunger and poverty here in the district. And then we also do quite a bit of outreach, and that means connecting with our families and our households that are experiencing food insecurity or low income, and making sure that we are educating the public about the state of hunger and its root causes in the district. We also work on broader food systems issues. So we release a grocery store report every year, which our next grocery store report is coming out here in a couple short weeks, with the lack of grocery store access here in the district, as well as it speaks to the disparities and the root causes of that, and brings forward permanent policy solutions on how we can address that access. So we do just about everything in the district when it comes to food, except distribute it. So we don't touch any food.
All right. And so joining the conversation is Brian Mulholland, chair of the John Mulholland Family Foundation, which provides food assistance to those in need. Brian, welcome to the conversation. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
What do you want to say about what's happening right now? That we have seen the stories on the news, on social media. People are hungry and they are terrified right now about just the climate. All right. We've talked about these SNAP benefits being paused tomorrow, and nonprofits are stepping up in a big way. What are you seeing and hearing?
Well, I think good news. Terrified is a good word. I was at one of our pantries was open yesterday at St. Luke's on East Capitol Street Southeast, and terrified is a good way to describe to people. But let me tell you, the good news is the federal government let the poor down, but the district mayor and council came to their rescue. The governor of Virginia and the governor of Maryland came to the rescue and said, "This will not stand in our region. We're not going to allow these people to go hungry." That's some good news. And I think once in a while we've got to talk about what's right. Now, this is a temporary 1 month stopgap, if you will. But the good news is we live in a region that's not going to let the federal government do that to our poor. And that's good news. And I think we ought to pause for just a second and celebrate that. Now, beyond that, grocery prices that we promised that were going down are not. This ice debacle has our people absolutely terrified. We're opening up a pantry in Columbia Heights where those people have been through a horrible couple of months up there, and there's this whole talk about taking away the SNAP benefits has just exacerbated what was already a challenge. But
yeah.
The good news.
Well, Brian, let me interrupt you for a second. Where are your pantries? Tell us where you are.
We're in wards 5, 6, 7, and 8, southeast and northeast Washington, and now northwest Washington, in the food deserts that we just spoke about, and so we feed close to 1,000 families a month with groceries.
I want to ask all of you. You jump in, however you like to contribute to this question or this point that I want to make. Obviously, we know this is a temporary fix. DC, Maryland, Virginia doing their parts respectively to help out in the wake of what's going on. But a quote from one of the furloughed federal government workers, I want to just read to you. Quote, "This felt like the beginning of the pandemic." And so it's not just the SNAP benefits being paused, but we're talking about people who haven't received paychecks, and they're now in those food lines receiving services. Who would like to talk about that and comment on just the emotional, gut-wrenching part of this, the terror that I mentioned? People are terrified, and how you guys are supporting these folks.
I can jump
in. I'll just say
okay.
I've commented before and let folks know that we've done some amazing work since the pandemic, and it's not that folks all of a sudden became hungry or that food insecurity just started with the pandemic, but it's, as Brian said, the pandemic exacerbated hunger. It let us know that it is still prevalent, that because grocery prices are still high. There are people that are experiencing food insecurity at a high number of rates. And here in the district, we still have one of the highest rates of older adult hunger in the nation. And so, we are seeing, a lot of the work that was done since the pandemic being reversed. A lot of the local food programs that have been funded and continue to be funded at the local level, through like DC Health, as well as our other partners. A lot of that work is being upended by what we're seeing with the high number of furloughed workers since the beginning of the year. Now,
LaMonika, let me pause you right there. I want you to continue with your point. We do have to take a quick break right here, but our conversation continues. We are addressing food insecurity in the DMV as SNAP benefits are set to expire tomorrow. And we want to continue this conversation on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141, and on 96.3 HD2 in just a few seconds. Coming up for my WHUR listeners, the original Quiet Storm with the Love King, Raheem Devon, is coming up next. I'm Millette Green in for Harold Fisher. Stay with us. We continue. And we do welcome you back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM, channel 141, and on 96.3 HD2. I'm Millette Green. Harold Fisher has the night off. We continue with a very important conversation on this Halloween night, taking a look at what could be and is a very frightening situation for so many of our listeners who are going to be facing the reality check that happens tomorrow when SNAP benefits expire. So my guest this evening, LaMonika Jones, Director of DC Hunger Solutions, Dr. Nicole Cooper, Senior Vice President of External Affairs with the United Way of the National Capital Region, and Brian Mulholland, Chair of the John Mulholland Family Foundation, which provides food assistance to those in need, pantries all over in select wards. And so we continue with our conversation. LaMonika, I had to cut you off. Sorry about that. Please continue with your point.
No, I was just reiterating the fact that, we've done a lot of work since the pandemic to address food insecurity. And unfortunately, the circumstances that are before us is we are undoing a lot of that good work that has happened when it comes to addressing food insecurity. So the district has done amazing when it comes to decreasing the number of households that are experiencing food insecurity. But when we factor in the number of furloughed workers since the beginning of the year, the number of furloughed workers since the shutdown, the number of folks that continue to experience layoffs as federal workers, and then with the impending concern about what will happen with December benefits, since we know that the mayor has decided to utilize local funds for SNAP, we're facing a possibility of undoing a lot of the good work that has been done since 2020.
Yeah. And Dr. Nicole, I know you want to jump in here with your point. I mean, food insecurity is deepening, and it has been deepening. It's a year-round thing. I know around the holidays, and we're getting close to the holidays, people are more aware of donating, and food drives happen. But this is a year-round problem that has been deepening. I know the Capital Area Food Bank released its hunger report weeks ago, which said that very thing, and that Black and brown people in Prince George's County, Maryland, people in the district really are not able to get out from under. Speak to that.
Yes, you've put it so well in terms of it being food insecurity being an issue that largely goes ignored. And it's an issue that's experienced, again, by those who are unemployed, who live squarely below the federal poverty line, which is not where it needs to be in terms of truly capturing those who have extreme hardship and need. And so we do need policy action there. But what I would say is that this hunger crisis is one that sort of puts a fine point on how under-resourced the safety net is, both nationally, but in our region. We make it too hard for people to access critical programs and services because of income thresholds and criteria, if you will, and the ways in which people have to even navigate and enroll in programs. And so sadly, we know that we are thankful for programs and nonprofits that step up and help people actually access benefits like those that I'm standing alongside today in this important interview. But we know that these benefits are already hard to access, and yet they still don't meet the need. And we are seeing, for example, right now, federal workers and contractors who are sadly furloughed and losing their employment bit by bit, week by week. They're now standing in the same lines as the ones that they once helped others to avoid. We know that here at the National Capital Area, some of our more loyal donors are now our clients. They're recipients of the programs that we support and provide access to, and that is deeply concerning to us. They're first-time visitors at local pantries, food pantries and the like, and they're having to access services. And really what we're seeing is a blurring of the lines between the working poor and working professionals in our region, which shows just how fragile our financial security as a whole is regionally and nationally. When one paycheck stops, right, you all of a sudden have to make these impossible choices.
Absolutely. Okay, so Brian, what do you need, beyond food? monetary donations, I'm sure, will go farther as well, because sometimes you have to buy culturally sensitive foods for certain
Right.
people who, it's worthless to donate foods to folks and they don't eat that kind of food. So tell me what you need from folks
Correct.
who can help.
Monetary donations are the most needed right now, and there is literally a food pantry in your neighborhood or close to your neighborhood. There are scores of them in the district and in the Maryland and Virginia suburbs. So get involved with a local food pantry. They're located largely out of churches and community centers, and they're there and doing the job gladly. With the federal workers have been a little reticent to join. They didn't expect it to last this long. They were waiting. They really didn't want to go to the food pantry, but now we're starting to see them as we approach the second month of this shutdown thing. So they're coming out, but the food pantries, they treat the people with respect and dignity, and it's a wonderful service that organizations like ours are doing throughout the region. So we stand together, and we're gonna fight this thing, and I think this too, like the pandemic, shall pass.
I want to read something to you guys that just came in about a federal judge ordering the Trump administration to continue to provide SNAP food benefits. Two federal judges nearly simultaneously have ordered the Trump administration to continue with the SNAP benefits. What is your reaction to that?
Will he abide by the order or ignore it? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me and for our organization, this is what we want to make sure had happened, because SNAP and WIC, these are federal programs that should be and are 100% funded by the federal government. And no state should be responsible for funding the benefits for our recipients with local reserve funds. This is purely the responsibility and legal responsibility of USDA. They've always had they have the contingency funds in their account, the $6 billion contingency funds in their account, as well as the transfer authority to utilize other funding in their wheelhouse to ensure that the $8 billion that is needed for our SNAP clients is issued out to states so that they do receive their benefits. So I am glad that the federal judges have stepped up to challenge this, and hope that this is an immediate resolution. We know what DC and Maryland, what their actions are, but I'm hoping that this, will support our other neighboring states across the nation.
I certainly hope so too. I hope that in the long term, all of the benefits that are promised to individuals who are struggling and in need are indeed offered to them, right? And again, it's so hard already to access these programs to begin with, to enroll and apply for and stay on top of all of the various requirements and criteria. And so it is frightening still. I know that that's the word we've been using in this interview, to know that we still don't know what will happen tomorrow and in a month, because what we do know, though, is that missed benefits and delayed payments don't just cause short-term pain. They lead to lasting financial damage. They lead to evictions. They lead to debt. A lot of people already, as the Capital Area Food Bank report, a State of Hunger report just said about a month ago, people use their credit cards to buy food in our region and in our country. And so think about the double tax that they're paying literally to eat, to feed their children. So we know that these delayed benefits and payments, if they don't come tomorrow and if they don't come in a month, they will lead to damaged credit scores. They will will lead to interrupted healthcare services, and they will have long-lasting generational impact as it relates to generational poverty and the gaps that are growing as we continue to monitor here at United Way of the National Capital Area in which direction we're heading as it relates to our outcomes in health, education, and income. And so we only hope that we will lessen the trends that we are seeing in terms of people slipping more and more into poverty, both before the federal shutdown, but now certainly after.
And one other note about the federal judges that have ordered the Trump administration to continue to provide SNAP food benefits. We don't know. It's not clear what's going to happen. It's not clear that the debit cards that they use to buy groceries could be reloaded. Typically, that process often takes 1 or 2 weeks. Nothing moves quickly when we're talking about all of this, but it is at least a sign in the right direction, and maybe there will be more pressure on the Trump administration to and members of Congress to come together and end this shutdown, and of course things can normalize a little bit more. But in the meantime, we're still talking about a food crisis. We're still talking about people who are not having paychecks, 2 weeks of paychecks missing. I cannot miss a paycheck. I know that would be catastrophic in my life. And I can't even imagine what people are going through right now. You guys are on the front lines of this crisis. So for our listeners who want to do something, I want to drill down on what exactly they can do. Donate, volunteer, spread the word. Let's talk about some effective ways for people to step up. And we've seen them do this. So from each of your points of view, from your respective positions, what would you like? One or two things that you would like folks who can help. What do you want to see happen?
I would
LaMonika,
say,
do you want to start?
Oh, sure, I can. I think that's one way. If you can help, definitely show up. Definitely make sure that you're sharing out the resource. We have a government.
So do they need to call you? Do they need to set an appointment? Do they need to go on the website? Just give our listeners some real instructional points that they call to action here.
So if you visit our website, we have a link of emergency food sources on our government shutdown page. We have links to Capital Area Food Bank, as well as to Bread for the City and other resources. And then there's directions there on their websites as far as the next steps for our clients specifically that we work with. My urge to them is to continue to stay up to date with their paperwork, to continue applying for SNAP. All of our ESA service centers are still open and fully functioning. Continue to utilize your WIC benefits. For our furloughed workers that are interested in signing up for SNAP and WIC, please contact us because they may be eligible by utilizing their furlough letter from their employer. But if they have any questions, they can absolutely contact us at info@dchunger.org.
Brian.
I'd find the local small faith-based or community pantry in your neighborhood and go by with some groceries or a monetary contribution. Ours is I'll give a commercial, mulhollandcharities.org. But there's a plethora of small, independent, and faith-based food pantries in our region. There's one in your neighborhood. Start at home first.
Dr. Nicole with the United Way.
Yes, our main ask is to help our neighbors and our friends through volunteering in any way that you can with and for a local community-based organization. And if you're able to actually donate, if you would like to donate to the United Way of the National Capital Area, we would steer those dollars right now in this emergency situation for our region. because of the federal government shutdown, we would steer those dollars to our financial empowerment centers. We actually operate in and serve 11 counties across our region, including Washington, D.C. And in 5 of those counties, including Washington, D.C., we operate financial empowerment centers. Those centers provide services that are free and walk-ins. And so if you go to our website, unitedwaynca.org, you can access where exactly those centers are. But again, if you're interested in supporting the services provided, which we have seen a dramatic increase in need for the clients that we serve at those financial empowerment centers, and they're doing great work helping people enroll in emergency benefits and services, helping people to retool their resumes who've been furloughed and laid off within the federal workforce, providing all sorts of credit counseling, one-on-one certified counseling services, and that are quality, and we continue to expand the set of services that are offered. And so we are seeking support, financial support of all kinds for those financial empowerment centers. And 2, we welcome anyone listening to encourage a colleague or a friend, or perhaps consider yourself walking into one of our financial empowerment centers to get some of those services, because they are readily available.
LaMonika, I want to go back to a point that you touched on in terms of we are seeing folks who perhaps are middle-class folks who are now needing to go and get services. They need food, they need diapers, they need support through all of this. And let's drill down on exactly what kind of steps they need to take. And all of you can jump in here with that advice. So if someone in need walks in or is in need, walk us through the entire process of what kind of documentation, what do they need to have in order to get services provided?
Absolutely. So I'll start with SNAP. So SNAP is based off of your eligibility for SNAP is based off of household size and income. So we advise clients to, number one, you can absolutely visit a service center, and the links to the service center are on our website, dchunger.org. But please feel free to call us 202-640-1088.
Give that one more time.
202-640-1088. And a member of our SNAP team will support them and walk them through the specific details. We will pre-screen clients. We do have a SNAP pre-screener that is on our website. You go to our website and it is right there at the top of the page. So you can pre-screen yourself to see if you're eligible. Specifically for our furloughed workers and those that have been RFID'd, I suggest they give us a call or email us at info@dchunger.org, because just utilizing their paychecks, they may not be eligible. But if they have the furloughed letter, we can use that as eligibility for both SNAP and WIC. With WIC, it's a little different. You have to schedule an in-person appointment. And so definitely still call us or email us. However, you can also utilize LinkUDMV, and you can put in your address and it will show a WIC clinic that is closest to your home. And you can stop in. Again, make sure that those that are seeking services for WIC, that they do also have the furloughed letter from their employer, because just using their income verification statements, their pay stubs, they may not be eligible, since this is the first payment. This past Friday was the first 2 weeks. And we usually look at eligibility over 30 days. But definitely call us with any questions, and then we can walk clients through based off of their case circumstances. We can walk them through additional documentation that's needed.
Dr. Nicole, I think I cut you off too. Did you want to add to that?
No, that's right. And I can also clarify that in terms of what it takes to access the services at the United Way Financial Empowerment Centers. We actually simplify as much as possible that process. We actually have very little income requirements. We help anyone who walks through the doors. And we do that because of the funding structure that we're under, and that we have fully funded, if you will, folks, full-time employees who staff these centers, who have all sorts of expertise, who are ready to help with housing counseling, who can get people connected to all sorts of other social services that are interrelated and perhaps causing some of their financial hardship. And so they're there, and they don't ask a lot of questions. I know that may be counterintuitive, but we do our very best to help people, again, at all income levels, because at this time, we are seeing people walk in for the first time, right, who have no awareness at all, who've never had to access a safety net benefit. And so because of that, we've retooled our programs and our services to help people of all income levels.
And Dr. Nicole, if I can ask you, in terms of helping folks who have income coming in, or perhaps they're down to one income household, making good financial decisions during that time, do you all help with that?
We do.
Helping people to properly manage? Yeah.
Yes, we do. We do. There's a deliberate emphasis placed on budgeting and minimizing costs, and really applying to the extent possible for as much emergency sources of emergency assistance as possible. There are low interest loans that are available, for example, for federal employees who overnight find themselves without a paycheck at no cost and no fault of themselves. And so there are all sorts of resources that are becoming available. And I do want to highlight, however, that there still are not enough resources, but certainly there have been more resources made available in just the last month, as day by day the shutdown continues to wreak havoc financially on so many families who just a month ago would have no idea, no foresight to even expect to be experiencing a budget loss like the one that they're currently experiencing.
Brian, I want to bring you into talk about something very important that we didn't zero in on, and it's the children. These adults, many of them, their families that are suffering, the children that are suffering. Talk about that and the need for humanity. And we've seen such great acts of humanity, even furloughed federal workers holding a food drive in the community, which was a beautiful sight to see. People are overwhelmed. How are your volunteers helping in the wake of all of this? Because I can't stand to see a child go hungry, and I'm sure you and your folks can't either.
Absolutely, and to expand on what these two ladies just mentioned, we have a no judgment policy. You come to one of our food pantries, and we don't ask for any information about your income, or just say I need some food, and ask and you shall receive, Matthew 7:7. So it's there for you, and no questions asked. We do have the benefit, again, to give a little kudos to our region. We do have the benefit of in-school breakfast and lunch programs. Thanks be to God for that. And but then there's also dinner, and so the combination of the SNAP programs, it's a formula. You know, they use the SNAP benefits the first couple of weeks of the month, and they visit us. Our pantries are backloaded in the month because they get the benefits at the beginning of the month, and they're able to shop on their own, and they visit us the second part of the month, and we try to fill in the gaps, which I think we do pretty successfully. So no questions asked. When we see families with children, we try to bulk up a little bit extra for them too, as do all of the pantries in the city. So I think the combination is very good. But again, with the holiday season coming up and a lot of school breaks, hopefully this nightmare will be over before we head into the full Christmas break.
Goodness, and that is a whole nother story. And so let me go back to this. LaMonika, you mentioned this too. This is a temporary fix. All of you guys did. And right. So we've got these federal judges who have said, hey, the government needs to release that money and keep these SNAP benefits going. But if that doesn't happen, and we go into November and we go into December, I just see a catastrophic situation unfolding here. you know what could happen. Give us an idea of what we could be looking at here. Dr. Nicole, you want to start?
Yes, the magnitude of this continuing on for just a few more weeks, and let alone another full month, will be catastrophic. We do know that families are living at the brink of being far too stretched. They are not making ends meet. There is tremendous hardship and tremendous economic inequality in our region. Wages are not high enough to begin with. And that was all of these issues were at play before October 1st when the federal shutdown started. And so we don't have a safety net in this region and in this country that can support millions more people enrolling in SNAP, WIC, Medicaid. In fact, those programs were largely cut and reduced by congressional action taken this summer. And so we are in many ways experiencing policy-induced hardship in that we've made a decision, a collective decision, if you will, that we are not adequately supporting people and with the human services and the basic social services that they need to live and thrive. And yet at the same time are making it even harder for them to live and to thrive. And so I fear what will happen in another month. And the uncertainty is very, very taxing. And what we do know at the same time is that we have a very resilient region. And sadly, resilience will not buy you food. It will not pay your rent. It will not pay your utilities. And so we are deeply concerned here at the United Way of the National Capital Area in terms of what we'll see in overnight, our rates of poverty rising in our region.
Not to mention, LaMonika, what the shutdown, what the sticking point in the shutdown is over the Affordable Care Act subsidies, set to expire. So continue with what Dr. Nicole was saying about what could be in our future here if things are not turned around.
Yeah, 42 million people in our country rely on SNAP. That's, again, over 140,000 district residents and 50,000 children that are relying on SNAP benefits. These are benefits that are paid 100% by the federal government. No state is equipped with the financial means to cover that benefit for a long period of time. No state should have had to step in to cover the cost of November benefits when USDA does have the contingency funds and the transfer authority to do so. So as we look into November and we look on into December, we're asking states to utilize reserve funds that they have set aside for true rainy days, not as a response to the USDA not choosing not to do what is legally within their authority to do. And I'm concerned that difficult decisions will have to be made again. What is it that we're going to have to not support so that we can support one thing? Because states have not budgeted for having to cover the full cost of a federal allocated benefit that has been budgeted for, where there is money allocated to. And so we're putting states in difficult positions, which will ultimately have families will have to make difficult decisions. And a lot of times that difficult decision is, I will choose not to eat. I always say the rent eats first. Typically, your food is the last decision that we make. As Brian alluded to, we're thankful that school meals remain unharmed. So all of our DC school students have access to free breakfast. 96 out of the 117 DC public schools, as well as many of our public charter schools, serve meals at no cost through the community eligibility provision. So we do have meals that will be served during the school day for our children. But it's what's gonna happen after school for dinner, as well as on the weekends, and then on through into Thanksgiving break and into holiday break. And so there's some tough decisions that state leaders, that DC council members, that a lot of elected officials are going to have to make in terms of how we support our residents going forward, that we should not have to, because this is a responsibility of the federal government.
Brian.
Yeah, it's time to express some outrage with your federally elected officials. They've already announced that the House will, in effect, be closed for another week next week. Already, we're not through this week. They've announced we're not taking any votes next week, and they want us to this shutdown. They want us to choose between food and healthcare and give up one. How crazy is this? I mean, this is insanity. What's going on in the House and Senate, and somebody's got to step up and say enough is enough of this nonsense, and you guys get to work, and guys and gals get to work and sit down and solve this situation and this impasse. They're behaving like 7-year-olds down there, and the outrage has got to be there, and venues like this to talk about this. We don't talk about this enough. Food insecurity, and God bless you for talking about it today. But we've got to say this is morally wrong. What's going on with this? It's morally wrong. Forget Republican or Democrat. It's morally wrong what's going on in this country.
And I can't agree with you more. Prince George's County officials encouraging people to donate to food banks. Brian, you've talked about faith in this conversation tonight. Church leaders have stepped up as well. People are stepping up, at least to feed those in need, while the politicians do what they do or they don't do. We are seeing that, the humanity.
Absolutely. And if your church isn't doing something, when you visit this weekend, ask your pastor why not, because everybody, the faith community has traditionally stepped up in these kinds of situations, and I have faith, pun intended, that they will again. That and they are doing so in great measures, but it's not supposed to be the norm. It's supposed to be the rainy day, but it's raining all the time now,
Dr. Nicole, the United Way has a long history of mobilizing in times of crisis. Well, how are you all partnering with local organizations? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I'm happy to. Yeah, so we are about 100 years old here at the United Way of the National Capital Area. We've been serving the Greater Washington region for just that long. And our mission really is to create a region where every person can thrive. And we know that we have to support the ecosystem of other nonprofits in order to make that mission real. And so we have hundreds of other nonprofits across our region, very strong, impactful nonprofits that we both partner with and financially support. And that's what we've been doing for our 100-year history, if you will. And we've done so through all of the last few federal shutdowns. And we step up as a strong philanthropic backbone organization, really, which really means that we enable other nonprofits to do their good work across all sorts of social needs, supporting nonprofits that do great work in the health space, hunger space, economic mobility, and certainly in the education space as well.
We're running out of time. We're coming to the end of the conversation tonight. LaMonika, I want you to give a quick final thought here as we start to close out.
Absolutely. Again, I just want to applaud Mayor Bowser for the decision to utilize our local reserve funds here in the district to support our SNAP clients. Benefits will be issued on time come November 1st. DHS state agency is ready to go. And I also want to commend Governor Moore for issuing $10 million to support our food banks as well as emergency food providers, and to encourage all of our SNAP and WIC recipients, if they do have questions, they can email us at info@dchunger.org, but continue to please utilize your benefits. If you visit our website, we do have a list of emergency resources across the district, as well as on our sister site, mdhungersolutions.org. We have resources available across the state of Maryland.
10 seconds, Brian, closing thought.
Everybody within the sound of our voice, take this weekend and do one thing for somebody in need?
Dr. Nicole, 10 seconds.
Now is the time for our neighbors and our friends and local leaders to really step up and ensure everybody in our community has what they need, doing all that we can to help ensure people have food, shelter, and really hope. And I too applaud our local leaders who are stepping in, our local and nonprofit leaders who are stepping in when our federal government sadly is not able to.
Thank you all for this conversation tonight. We've helped a whole lot of people to get information that they need as they are probably in crisis in their families, and they need a place to start. And you gave them that this during this conversation. I want to thank you all again for joining me for what is an important conversation, and one I hope we don't have to continue having week after week. But here we are. Tonight's reminder is when one neighbor goes hungry, we all have work to do. So stay informed, stay inspired, and stay connected. I'm Malek Green in for Harold Fisher on this Friday night. Have a good night. Happy Halloween to all of you trick-or-treaters, and have a safe weekend. Good night.